Have you ever looked at someone, truly looked, and thought you knew their story, only to discover there was a profound, shimmering truth hidden beneath the surface of their quiet existence? What if the person you least expected held the greatest gift, painstakingly crafted in the shadows of their own silent sacrifice? In the sprawling, sun-drenched city of Houston lived Ava Reyes, a woman who understood the weight of being overlooked. At 32, a dedicated paralegal, she navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the legal system and, more profoundly, the intricate dynamics of her own family. Her life, by all outward appearances, was one of methodical routine and humble aspiration. She wore simple, well-maintained clothes, her dark hair often pulled back in a practical braid, and her eyes, though observant and intelligent, rarely sought the spotlight. While others chased fleeting trends, Ava pursued a singular, deeply personal mission, a secret vow whispered only to the quiet hours of the night. Her sister, Celeste, a vibrant, effervescent force of nature, commanded attention effortlessly. As a prominent lifestyle influencer, Celeste's life unfolded like a curated gallery of perfection on social media, exotic vacations, designer clothes, and a constant stream of adoring fans. Their parents, loving but undeniably enchanted by Celeste's dazzling success, often inadvertently cast Ava into the role of the lesser daughter. Conversations at family gatherings would inevitably revolve around Celeste's latest brand deal or follower count, while Ava's quiet accomplishments in her demanding legal career often went unacknowledged, or worse, were dismissed as merely practical. Yet, beneath Ava's calm exterior beat a heart fiercely loyal, bound by an unspoken promise. Her evenings and weekends, instead of being spent on social outings or leisurely pursuits, were consumed by extra shifts, freelance legal work, and meticulous budgeting. Every dollar, every spare hour, was channeled into a singular, audacious goal: to buy back their mother's childhood home. It was a dream that had haunted their mother for decades, a wistful memory of simpler times, of a picket fence and a porch swing, all lost to the cruel grip of economic hardship years ago. Ava carried this burden and this hope in secret, a silent testament to a love that sought no applause, only profound restitution. The impending birthday celebration for their mother loomed, a date Ava had marked on her calendar not just as a day for festivities, but as the culmination of years of unwavering effort, a moment that would either shatter or fulfill the deepest yearning of her spirit. The mother's childhood home wasn't just a house, it was a repository of memories, a place where the scent of freshly baked cookies mingled with the laughter of a bygone era. It was where her mother had felt most truly herself, rooted and secure. Ava remembered the day they lost it, a blur of eviction notices and hushed, tearful conversations. She was just a child, but the image of her mother's slumped shoulders, the quiet, profound grief in her eyes as they drove away from the familiar picket fence for the last time, had etched itself onto Ava's soul. That pain, silent and enduring, became the bedrock of Ava's determination. She understood, even then, that true love wasn't about grand pronouncements, but about profound acts of caring, about mending the broken pieces of a beloved past. From that day forward, a quiet resolve settled within Ava. Her life became a meticulously orchestrated symphony of sacrifice. Mornings began before dawn, fueled by instant coffee and steely resolve. Lunches were often skipped or consisted of a humble sandwich brought from home. Her wardrobe remained minimalist, her clothes durable and practical, eschewing any frivolous spending. Friends occasionally invited her out, but she would politely decline, citing work commitments, which was always true, though they didn't know the full extent of it. She took on every extra shift offered at her law firm, even the most tedious and thankless tasks, sifting through mountains of documents, cross-referencing statutes, and drafting endless reports. Her desk, usually adorned with stacks of legal briefs, also held a hidden folder, tucked away in a locked drawer, containing spreadsheets meticulously detailing her income, expenses, and Most importantly, the steadily growing balance for the house fund. Celeste, meanwhile, lived a life of flamboyant ease, her social media feed a dazzling mosaic of curated experiences. She would often comment on Ava's boring life, her predictable routines. "Ava, darling, don't you ever just want to live a little?" Celeste would ask, her voice dripping with performative concern, as if Ava's quiet dedication was a personal failing rather than a chosen path. "You work so much, don't you worry about missing out?" Ava would simply offer a small, enigmatic smile. She knew what she was missing out on, and she knew what she was gaining. Each extra hour worked, each denied luxury, felt like a brick laid in the foundation of her mother's future happiness, a silent act of rebellion against the superficiality that seemed to govern the world around them. The financial journey was arduous, marked by unexpected hurdles and moments of profound doubt, but Ava clung to the image of her mother's joyful face, a beacon guiding her through the darkness of exhaustion and the weight of her secret. Celeste's world was a carefully constructed illusion of effortless perfection. Every meal was an aesthetic masterpiece, every outfit a statement, every interaction a potential piece of content for her millions of followers. She spoke in brand names and hashtags, her phone a constant extension of her hand, capturing every moment, every emotion, as if life itself were a performance. The family, especially their father, a man who adored his daughters but had always been drawn to success that was outwardly visible and easily understood, often basked in Celeste's reflected glow. He'd proudly recount her latest viewership numbers at Sunday dinners, his chest puffed with paternal pride, while Ava would quietly clear the table, her presence as unobtrusive as the shadows on the wall. At one such dinner, Celeste presented their mother with a lavish, diamond-encrusted bracelet, filming her reaction for her stories. The mother, ever gracious, smiled broadly, but Ava, keenly observant, noticed a flicker of something else in her eyes, a wistful, almost melancholic quality. Later, as Ava helped her mother with the dishes, the mother sighed. "It's beautiful, of course," she said, her voice soft. "But sometimes, I just miss the simple things. The old house. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like us." Ava merely squeezed her mother's hand, a silent promise solidifying in her heart. She knew then, more than ever, that her path, though arduous, was the truest expression of love. While Celeste meticulously planned her next social media campaign, Ava wrestled with the practicalities of her immense undertaking. The escrow period had been fraught with unexpected delays. A sudden appraisal issue threatened to derail everything, forcing Ava to dip into her emergency fund and work even more tirelessly to cover the shortfall. She navigated the complex legal paperwork, the endless phone calls, the late-night calculations, all while maintaining her regular demanding paralegal duties. There were moments of despair, sitting alone in her tiny apartment, surrounded by legal textbooks and the glow of her laptop screen, wondering if she had bitten off more than she could chew. The weight of her secret, of the years of sacrifice, pressed down on her, a physical ache in her chest. Yet, each time doubt crept in, she would pull out the faded photograph of the old house, tucked inside her savings ledger, and her resolve would harden anew. It wasn't just a house, it was her mother's history, her legacy, her peace, and Ava, the overlooked daughter, was determined to restore it. The final stretch was a crucible of exhaustion and heightened anticipation. Ava felt like a tightly wound spring, every nerve buzzing with a mixture of hope and terror. The closing date was set, just days before her mother's birthday, and the pressure was immense. Her boss, a gruff but perceptive senior partner named Mr. Henderson, occasionally remarked on her tireless dedication. "Reyes," he'd grumble, peering over his reading glasses. "You're burning the candle at both ends, you need a break." He didn't know the half of it. He saw the long hours, the meticulous work, but not the raw, deeply personal motivation behind it. Ava would simply nod, offer a polite smile, and retreat to her desk, the faint scent of stale coffee clinging to her. Meanwhile, Celeste, oblivious to Ava's monumental undertaking, was orchestrating their mother's birthday celebration with her usual flair for grandiosity. She'd chosen a trendy, exclusive venue, invited a long list of acquaintances, many of them for networking opportunities, and was planning a lavish, multi-course meal. Ava, Celeste had chirped over the phone. I need you to handle the gift bags for the B-list guests. And please, try to make them look presentable. Not like something you picked up at a discount store. The casual slight stung, but Ava, practiced in the art of emotional deflection, simply agreed, focusing on the larger prize. In her rare moments of respite, Ava would drive to the old neighborhood, parking a few blocks away and walking past the familiar, now alien, house. It looked smaller, perhaps, than in her memories, but the sturdy oak tree in the front yard, the slightly crooked mailbox, the comforting familiarity of the porch swing, filled her with a profound sense of purpose. Each visit was a ritual, a silent promise renewed, a visual reminder of what she was fighting for. The last few payments had been particularly challenging, a delicate dance between her meticulous savings and unexpected legal fees that cropped up. She had to sell a few small, sentimental possessions, things she'd cherished, but the sacrifice felt insignificant compared to the joy she hoped to bring her mother. The final transfer of funds, the confirmation from the bank, felt like a silent, monumental victory. The house was hers. Or rather, it was their mother's. The key, polished and gleaming, lay tucked inside a velvet pouch in Ava's pocket, a tiny, weighty symbol of years of quiet devotion, waiting for its moment to unlock more than just a door. The day of the mother's birthday dawned bright and clear, but for Ava, it felt charged with an almost unbearable tension. Celeste had transformed their parents' spacious suburban home into a tableau of upscale festivity. Floral arrangements costing more than Ava's monthly rent cascaded from every surface. A caterer's team bustled in the kitchen, and a professional photographer adjusted his lenses, ready to capture every curated moment. Celeste, resplendent in a designer dress, directed traffic with the precise choreography of a seasoned event planner. Ava, darling, could you please ensure the champagne flutes are perfectly aligned on the serving tray? And make sure no one smudges the velvet napkins. She instructed, her voice a little sharper than usual, her gaze sweeping over Ava's simple, elegant dress with a faint disapproval. Ava, despite the whirlwind of activity and her escalating nerves, moved with a quiet grace, her hands steady, her focus absolute. She had spent the early morning hours, long before anyone else stirred, meticulously preparing her own contribution. A homemade lemon olive oil cake, a recipe her mother had loved in her youth. It was simple, unadorned, reflecting the earnestness of her intent, a stark contrast to the opulent display around her. As she carefully frosted the cake, the scent of citrus and vanilla filled the kitchen, a comforting anchor amidst the mounting chaos. Celeste drifted in, surveying Ava's work with a critical eye. Oh, Ava, a homemade cake? How quaint. I suppose it's fine. Just make sure it doesn't clash with the aesthetic. Ava merely smiled, a private secret gleaming in her eyes that Celeste, blinded by superficiality, couldn't possibly discern. Family members began to arrive, filling the house with chatter and laughter. Everyone gravitated towards Celeste, eager to hear about her latest adventures, to admire her latest acquisitions. There was a palpable sense of anticipation for Celeste's grand gift, rumored to be something truly extravagant, designed to be the centerpiece of the celebration. Ava, meanwhile, remained in the periphery, observing the velvet pouch with the key, a comforting weight in her pocket. Her internal monologue was a chaotic symphony of emotions: exhilaration at the cusp of her triumph, profound anxiety that her gesture might be misunderstood, and a quiet, almost melancholic understanding that even this monumental act might not fully bridge the chasm of their family's long-standing perceptions. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. This wasn't about recognition, it was about love, pure and unwavering. The party was in full swing, a symphony of polite laughter and clinking glasses. Celeste, radiant and commanding, took center stage as she always did, her voice projected with an influencer's practiced ease. "And now," she announced, drawing all eyes to her, a dramatic pause stretching the anticipation. "For the moment we've all been waiting for. Mama, darling, this is for you." With a flourish, she unveiled her gift, a gleaming set of vintage Cartier jewelry, nestled in a plush velvet box. The room erupted in a chorus of oohs and ahs. Gasps of admiration rippled through the gathered family and friends. Celeste's phone was already recording, capturing every reaction, every flash of light on the diamonds. The mother's eyes widened, a genuine gasp escaping her lips. "Celeste, my dear," she murmured, genuinely touched by the extravagant gesture. "It's absolutely stunning." She hugged Celeste tightly, her smile bright for the cameras, for the family, but Ava, observing from the quieter corner of the room, noticed a subtle, almost imperceptible hesitation in her mother's embrace, a brief pause before the full surge of effusive gratitude. It wasn't that her mother wasn't grateful, it was that the gift, though undeniably valuable, felt like a grand performance rather than a deeply personal connection. Celeste, basking in the spotlight, turned to the gathering. "You see," she declared, addressing the room, "true love is about making grand gestures, about showing someone how much they mean to you with something truly special, something unforgettable. It takes real effort, real vision, to choose a gift that truly reflects someone's worth." Her gaze flickered, almost imperceptibly, towards Ava, a subtle implication hanging in the air that Ava's quiet contributions were somehow less. Ava remained still, her expression unreadable. She felt the weight of the key in her pocket, a small, unassuming object that held more worth than all the glittering diamonds in the room. The dramatic irony of Celeste's words hung heavy in the air, a silent testament to the vast difference between perceived value and true intrinsic worth. Ava's stomach churned with a mixture of nerves and quiet determination. This was her moment, not for fanfare, but for a profound, heartfelt revelation. The cake, waiting patiently in the kitchen, was more than just dessert. It was the messenger of a dream realized, a sacrifice fulfilled, a love that transcended superficiality and spoke directly to the heart. The chatter eventually subsided as the catering staff began to clear the tables, signaling the transition to dessert. This was Ava's cue. With a deep breath that steadied her trembling hands, she walked into the kitchen, the scent of her lemon olive oil cake welcoming her. She picked up the modest, homemade confection, its simplicity a stark contrast to the earlier opulence. As she wheeled it out on a small serving cart, a quiet hush fell over the room, curiosity replacing the boisterous conversation. Celeste, seeing the cake, let out a small, almost imperceptible sigh of disdain. "Oh, right, the homemade cake," she murmured, loud enough for a few people near her to hear, a hint of patronizing amusement in her tone. "How sentimental." Ava ignored her, her gaze fixed solely on her mother. She carefully positioned the cart in front of her mother's chair, the cake glowing softly in the ambient light. Then, with deliberate, unhurried movements, she reached into her pocket. Her fingers closed around the small, cool metal of the key. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation. As the family watched, puzzled, Ava gently placed the old, tarnished house key directly on the center of the cake, nestled perfectly amidst the delicate frosting swirls. For a moment, no one understood. A ripple of quiet confusion spread through the room. "Ava, what?" her father began, his brow furrowed. But before anyone else could speak, her mother's eyes, drawn by the glint of metal, widened. Her gaze fixed on the key, then lifted to Ava's face, a slow dawning of recognition, then disbelief, then something profoundly deeper. Her breath hitched. Her hands, which had been resting in her lap, began to tremble. It was the original key, the one from her childhood home, recognizable by its unique, antique design, the very one she had lamented losing all those years ago. The room, which had been filled with a soft murmur of bewilderment, fell into an absolute, breathless silence. Every eye was now fixed on the mother, on the key, and then, finally, on Ava. The air crackled with unspoken questions, with an emotion so raw and powerful it seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the house. Ava stood tall, her quiet strength radiating outward, the years of silent struggle converging in this single poignant moment. The mother, her eyes still fixed on the key, reached out a tentative hand. Her fingers, delicate with age, traced the worn ridges of the metal, as if confirming its reality. Tears welled in her eyes, not soft, gentle tears, but large, shimmering droplets that spilled over and traced paths down her cheeks. Her lips trembled as she tried to form words, but none came. The silence in the room stretched, thick with unspoken emotion, all eyes riveted on the scene unfolding. Then, in a voice that was barely a whisper, yet carried the weight of years of unspoken longing, Ava spoke. "Happy birthday, Mama," she said, her voice clear and unwavering, though a profound tenderness underscored each word. "It's yours again. All paid for. The house. Your house." The words hung in the air, simple, direct, and utterly monumental. The mother gasped, a broken sound of disbelief and overwhelming joy. She snatched the key from the cake, clutching it tightly in her fist as if it were the most precious jewel. Her gaze snapped from the key to Ava, her eyes wide, glistening with unshed tears, a mixture of shock, confusion, and then a tidal wave of profound, aching love washing over her face. My house?" she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Ava, no, how?" The family, initially dumbfounded, began to stir. A murmur rose, a wave of incredulous questions. "The old house? From when we were kids?" Ava's father stepped forward, his face pale with shock. Celeste, who had been frozen in place, her expression a contorted mask of disbelief, finally seemed to register the magnitude of Ava's revelation. The vibrant color drained from her face, replaced by a ghastly pallor. Her jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing as she processed the impossible truth. The lavish Cartier necklace around her neck, moments ago the symbol of extravagant affection, now seemed gaudy, cheap, utterly eclipsed by the small, tarnished key in their mother's trembling hand. The air thickened with the raw, potent force of what had just transpired. Years of unspoken sacrifice, of quiet dedication, of love that sought no recognition, had just exploded into the heart of their family, forever altering the landscape of their perceptions. It was a moment of profound truth, laid bare for all to see, a testament to a different kind of wealth, a different kind of love. The mother, finally finding her voice, let out a choked sob and surged forward, enveloping Ava in a fierce, trembling embrace. It was an embrace that conveyed decades of unspoken understanding, of gratitude, of love so profound it transcended words. Her face buried in Ava's shoulder, she wept, deep, cathartic sobs that shook her entire frame. "My daughter," she murmured brokenly, her voice muffled against Ava's dress. "My beautiful, wonderful daughter. You did this? All this time?" Ava held her mother tightly, the weight of years of hidden struggle lifting from her shoulders. In that embrace, she felt truly seen, truly valued, for the first time in a way that truly mattered. The family watched, a collective gasp escaping them as the true depth of Ava's sacrifice began to sink in. Their father, usually so composed, stood with his mouth slightly agape, a slow dawning of realization washing over his face. He looked at Celeste, then back at Ava, a flicker of regret, perhaps even shame, in his eyes. He had been blind, so profoundly blind to the quiet strength and immense heart of his other daughter. Celeste, visibly shaken, her carefully constructed facade crumbling, took a step back. Her initial shock morphed into a look of genuine awe, followed by a fleeting flicker of something akin to envy, quickly replaced by a profound sense of humility. She averted her gaze, unable to meet Ava's eyes, as if the sheer magnitude of Ava's selfless act exposed the superficiality of her own grand gestures. This was not about followers or likes. This was about life itself. Later, Celeste, her voice uncharacteristically soft, approached Ava. Ava, she began, her usual confidence replaced by a rare vulnerability. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You're incredible. It was a sincere, unprompted apology, a quiet moment of redemption in the cacophony of their emotional family reunion. The father, his voice thick with emotion, placed a hand on Ava's shoulder. Ava, he said, his eyes moist, I'm so incredibly proud of you. I always knew you were hardworking, but I never understood. I never saw the true depth of your heart. Forgive me. That evening, the family, still reeling but united in a new, profound way, made the pilgrimage to the old new house. As her mother, hand in hand with Ava, stepped over the threshold, a serene smile graced her lips. The house, stripped bare of furniture, echoed with the promise of new memories, a sanctuary rebuilt with love and sacrifice. The following weeks brought a quiet transformation. The old new house, now reclaimed, quickly became the heart of the family once more. It was a space filled not with opulent decor, but with the warmth of shared meals, the murmur of rediscovered laughter, and the palpable sense of belonging. Ava's mother, infused with a newfound vibrancy, lovingly restored the home, painting walls, tending the garden, each brushstroke and planted seed, a testament to a dream resurrected. Ava, no longer the lesser daughter, found herself at the center of her family's affection and respect. Her father, once so captivated by outward success, now sought her counsel, genuinely listened to her insights, and showered her with an open, unreserved pride that had previously been reserved for Celeste. Celeste, humbled by the profound depth of Ava's love, began a quiet journey of introspection. Her social media posts subtly shifted, featuring less overt materialism and more genuine, heartfelt moments. She started spending more time with their mother, truly present, truly listening, and even sought out Ava's advice on personal matters, a testament to a newfound bond of respect. Ava herself felt a profound sense of peace. The exhaustion that had been her constant companion for years slowly began to recede, replaced by a quiet, empowering joy. Her arc was complete. From obscurity and underestimation, she had risen to recognition and empowerment, not through seeking validation, but through an unwavering commitment to love and selflessness. She had become a catalyst for positive change, not just in her mother's life, but in the very fabric of her family. Her story was a quiet revolution, a testament to the power of the unseen, the unheard, the unheralded. What truly matters is not the sparkle of diamonds or the roar of applause, but the quiet, unwavering heartbeat of love that beats beneath the surface, driving silent acts of profound sacrifice. It is the hidden gem, the overlooked virtuoso, whose intrinsic worth ultimately shines brightest, illuminating the true meaning of family, of purpose, of unwavering devotion. So, I ask you, have you ever overlooked someone, dismissing their quiet presence, their unassuming demeanor? Have you ever measured worth by outward displays, rather than the profound acts of the heart? This story of Ava Reyes, the paralegal who bought back a home with the currency of her own soul, is a powerful reminder. It's a testament to the fact that true love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quietest whisper, the most arduous journey, the most selfless act, revealing itself in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. Look deeper, appreciate the quiet heroes in your own life. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that the greatest treasures are often hidden in plain sight, forged in the crucible of dedication and compassion. Remember, Ava, and remember that sometimes the person who seems to have the least to offer is, in truth, the one who gives the most. Let her quiet strength inspire you to see beyond the superficial, to celebrate the silent victories, and to recognize that real love, the kind that changes lives, often comes without fanfare, without spotlights, simply with an open heart and an unwavering will.